want to set some context really around the economy for the next 10 years, talk a little bit about the concept of lifetime customer value and also cost of sales, just to the context of these sort of 3 mistakes. Could be 4 mistakes, could be 5, could be 7, could be 2. I happen to just picked 3 that I observe quite frequently. Okay, this chap's a guy called Harry Dent, who has a financial advisory practice in the States. Mr. Dent uses demographics to make his predictions for the future analysis, and has done a pretty good job. Well, a lot of people say you couldn't have predicted the downfall and the recession. Actually, Mr. Dent was predicting it 10-15 years ago, and some of his predictions continue to bear out today. So quite a reasonable guy to look up and have a look at what he's got to say. He sort of has a simple 4-season economic cycle, which he describes lasting about 80 years. I'll just explain that in my own words. Apologies to Mr. Dent if I'm misquoting him, but please do go and have a look at his website for yourselves. Okay, if you plot the demographics basically over an extended period of time, you can actually sort of plot the age profile in any year, the how many people are on the planet and what age they are on the planet, and from figuring out at what age people spend. So Mr. Dent's suggesting that the maximum spending age is about 47, because that's when most people, certainly in the Western world, have their biggest sort of expense calls. It's when they're earning a reasonable money in their career and have the need to spend quite often on bigger houses, children going to college, new cars, that sort of expenditure. So that's when where the money gets spent. So that's directly related to population statistic. It's based on birth index and the peak spending age of 47. So this downturn that you can see on the slide, sort of starting around 2010 and falling off through the bottom of the downturn, or the beginning of the upturn, whichever way you prefer to word that, is about 2023. If you also plot against that the consumer price or inflation index, which is really driven by young people entering the workforce or old people leaving the workforce. Young people entering the workforce is an expensive thing, because there's costs of training associated with that. If you plot that, so what you actually get is an indication, again using demographics and population statistics, that there's going to be a deflationary period continuing again for another 10-15 years. That's driven by just simply the fact that as people enter the workforce, they're expensive, and therefore that has a deflationary effect on the spending. So those two things together, what Mr. Dent and his colleagues are suggesting is that the economic downturn, the economic recession, is going to be here for another 10 years, and actually no amount of government spending or stimulus will really affect this, because you're just pouring sort of good money after bad. The economics, the macroeconomics of the demographics of the population are just too strong. Stimulation packages might work in certain areas for short periods of time, but fundamentally this is all being driven by population statistics. So if you actually look at that over a period of time, what you get is the spring, summer, fall or autumn, and then winter period. And we're in a winter period now, and Mr. Dent has plotted this over other periods of time, and this cycle would appear to be repeatable. Okay, well, who will kind of survive in these periods? Well, this is just a little illustration of two people out adventuring. Obviously, the lady on the left-hand side of the screen is taking photographs, and she's accompanied by a guide, a protector. Now obviously she's taking photographs of these sorts of things, which can be quite dangerous, but she doesn't look particularly worried. She looks quite happy and pleased. She's obviously got some good photographs of the wildlife, and the guide is there. The guide, of course, has two things which make the lady on the left look pleased. One, he has a rifle, and two, he's wearing boots, as of course the lady on the left is wearing trainers. So this just illustrates the point that actually she doesn't need to be able to outrun the lion should the lion turn around and start chasing her. She just needs to be able to outrun the gentleman on the right hand side. He's got a rifle. Should he miss his shot, he will then have to run too, and undoubtedly she will be able to outrun him. So the point is that you don't, just because there are difficult times ahead, it doesn't mean that as a small business owner one needs to be terribly worried about that. What you need to do is compete with the competition and be able to outfox and outrun your competition. And generally small businesses are better at outrunning competition because they're more flexible, they change. Larger businesses tend to be a bit difficult to change direction. In the UK we're certainly seeing some major retail businesses closing, while some smaller retail businesses are doing absolutely fine. Okay, the other concept I just want to cover off, or another concept I want to cover off, is the idea of lifetime customer value. There is an algorithm. This is one that I found on the internet. I believe came from from Stanford University. A research project that was done. Looks pretty complex. You can put some numbers in, and I actually got an algorithm on a spreadsheet that kind of looks at this and makes some predictions about it. But fundamentally, it's quite basic. It sort of takes your immediate cash profit, plus how long people will buy from you, plus how often they will refer, and that gives you an indication of the lifetime customer value. Now, of course, if you know the lifetime customer value, what you can also make a judgment are, based on your margins, on how much you can afford to pay to acquire a new customer and still make a profit. And if you're putting in enough new customers and you're getting out your expected lifetime customer value, then your acquisition costs can be set at whatever is appropriate. And of course, you can afford to spend a lot more to acquire customers than most small businesses do. If we also look at the next concept, which is sort of the buying and selling cycle, small businesses will often generate some demand, and then they'll often just jump straight into sales, and they miss out the kind of the new process or the new thinking that's in there, which is the nurturing between sales. So once you've generated demand, it is rather expensive to jump straight to sales, because often there's a large expense in the sales cycle, with salespeople, literature, petrol to get to clients, to see them, to visit them, or other expenses to try and sell to them. And maybe those clients aren't ready to buy, or maybe they're not the right clients for you. So this kind of nurturing, qualification process becomes more and more important. And of course, if you've not got much in the way of demand, therefore a new lead is extremely tempting to run after it, spend a lot of time and energy on it. But if it's not the right lead, then I guess we're just kidding ourselves. Really what we're looking to do is to generate more demand, so that we have more good quality demand than sales capacity, and therefore the nurturing is really important, so that our clients are well qualified when we put them into the expensive sales cycle. So we need a low cost and fairly automated way to nurture people. Okay, so the three mistakes are not enough demand generation, not enough measurement, and not enough follow-up. Not enough demand generation is kind of weird, because if we just think about the number of different ways that it is possible to generate demand, it's ever increasing number. If we take some of these factors and just sort of all these categories and just kind of lay them out as a bit of a matrix, what we end up with is broadly 5 categories. I'm sure people can think of others as well. And then if you think about that as online and offline way of doing things. So for referrals, for example, offline referrals are things like get referrals from customers, alliances, PR maybe, online, affiliate groups, affiliate programs. From direct, we're looking at direct mail, mailing to lists, telemarketing, winning back customers previous customers that haven't done business with you for a while. PR also. Online, that looks like emailing, voice broadcast, and fax broadcast, other aspects that there's lots of different ways to do a direct campaign. Networking, sort of the offline, is meetings and clubs, networking meetings, clubs, societies, seminars, networking at conferences, trade shows, those types of things. Online, I guess, networking is social media, PR, forums. There's a forum for just about everything these days. So if you have a particular interest, then you can go to the forum and interact with people there. And if what you're saying is relevant, don't forget, with networking, we're not selling, we're networking. We're just trying to make the contact. And if what you're selling on, if what you're talking about online in the forums seems relevant, and there's links back to your website or links to your telephone number, if people are interested, they call you. So a more indirect method of doing things, but both offline and online, eminently available. Advertising, we've got offline advertising, print, radio, billboards, PR, all sorts of other offline marketing methods. Online, in terms of advertising, well, we've got search and display advertising from Google and others. We've also got sort of Facebook advertising, and no doubt most of the social media sites will try and monetize or commercialize themselves, and there'll be other opportunities to advertise online within those. From the directory point of view, countless number of directories, yellow pages, white pages, business journals, local sheets that go out, local booklets, conference packs where they have directories of people inside the conference pack. Also, you've got, in terms of online, Yell, Google Places, Google Itself, Bing's, Yahoo, a massive number of online directories, as well as sort of all the independent directories that you can participate in, get listed on, people who are claiming that they have traffic to the site, and therefore you can be listed, have there's some value in you be listed in their directories. So in order to sort of work through that, my suggestion is really, really simple. Get one of these things, an activity calendar, and just start writing what it is you are going to do to promote your business in each of these months. Obviously, if you want to have some sales in March, you probably need to start planning and putting into place your promotional activity in maybe January, maybe before that, but certainly by the time you get to March, it's a little bit late to be running promotions. So very, very simple. How many businesses do it? Not enough. There's also not enough measurement. So if we need to know a couple of parameters really to understand whether the marketing we're spending is effective, we need to know the cost of things, because obviously there is a cash flow issue, so we can't just be spending money without having some consideration for cash flow and whether we have the actual physical cash in the bank account. Then as we get leads in, we know how much we've spent, so we know how many leads we get, so we have the opportunity to calculate the cost per lead. If that lead turns into a prospect through the nurturing, we can figure out the cost per prospect. If they turn into a customer, we've got that metric, and then we know the profit per customer by the route, by the channel that we're getting it from. So it may be that you get more leads, prospects, and indeed customers from one particular source, but the products that those particular customers buy are not as expensive. The lifetime value of those customers might be not as good, and therefore the actual profit that you make and the return on investment from that particular activity may not be good. I'll give you an example of this. If you put a coupon in a coupon book that goes out to your local area, and you get people, let's say you're a restaurant for example, and you get people coming in and redeeming a good value coupon into your restaurant, that might be great, but you might be driving people in that only come once. Okay, whereas maybe, for example, a radio advert might drive fewer people into your restaurant, but those people come in on a lower offer or a lower cost, and spend more, become regular customers, and the lifetime value of those people is actually greater. And you need to know all the metrics to figure out whether it is a sensible spend for one particular advertising mechanism versus the other. And of course, if you're not tracking this, if you're not writing this down and tracking this, then that's going to be problematic to make those business decisions. The reason I've got advert 1A and advert 1B is once you've got something that you know works, then the task then is to split test it, to do another advert, slightly different, or maybe the same advert in a different medium, and see whether you get better or worse results. Of course, the concept of budgets is only one which departmental marketeers think of because they're given a budget. For small business owners, the budget really revolves around cash flow. If you only have £500 that you can actually spend, then that is your budget. But the concept really is if something's working and you can get it working for £500 and it's profitable and it's delivering to your business, then why wouldn't you spend £1,000 and do more of it? Or £10,000 and do more of it? If the cash flow wasn't the problem and the business was flowing, then of course you can scale up the advertising. So yeah, you'd start small, test things, understand what is working. Once you know what's working, then why wouldn't you spend more? So mistake number 2 is actually not enough measurement of the expenditure. So if we knew the result of this race, okay, we would have no problem, and we knew the odds we could get, we would have no problem with spending money on backing the winner. So it would be happy days. So that's the concept. Now, if you actually look when sales happen, and the third mistake you'll remember was not enough follow-up. I believe this piece of research was done and published in the Harvard Business Review some years ago. If you look at the number of calls that most businesses will do following a lead, an inbound lead, then 48% of people actually made 1 call, 24 made 2 calls, 12 3, 6% 4 calls, and only 10% made 5 more calls. Okay, but if you actually plot when deals come in, the majority of deals are done after 5+ sales calls, contacts, engagements, whatever that you're actually doing, but 5+. But half the people only do 1 contact, so half the people get about 2% of the deals. And the chart kind of speaks for itself. This is the third issue that I observe, is there really is not enough follow-up. Follow-ups are not good enough, not consistent enough, probably because it's not automated enough. If it was more automated follow-up and there was better tracking systems in place, then more follow-up would happen without the business owner needing to physically do things all the time. So this is my just sort of take on the difference between marketing and sales. I'm often off what is the difference between marketing and sales, and the flippant answer is, well, marketing people can't sell. But often marketing, the thought of marketing is to generate inbound leads, to generate demand. And the job of sales is to turn that demand into revenue. And very often marketing think that they've done a good job if they've got a name of an interested party. And they tend to measure quantity of contacts. Whereas sales, of course, see a lead as only somebody who wants to buy, and they want to buy now. Okay, so neither party are really right. Marketing should be measuring quantity and quality, and putting nurturing sequences in place so that when the expensive sales guys are involved, the sales guys are working on who wants to buy now, but the prospect that doesn't want to buy now isn't kind of mistreated or forgotten. They're just simply contacted at the appropriate time. The concept of also, marketing right throughout the life cycle of the business is one that Infusionsoft supports. Infusionsoft is very strong in automating, attracting traffic, taking that traffic through a funnel, so that when that traffic is nurtured and when that traffic is ready, those leads are ready to buy, converted well to sales, easily to sales at low cost, and delivery, sell more, increase the customer lifecycle value, and of course get referrals, which would talk to all the metrics that we had on the chart earlier on. There is a good webinar on this that you can that runs very frequently. You can get online if you go to bit.ly/7-steps, and 7 is a small s, but steps is a big S. There is a webinar there. that you can look at, and some more education, some more thinking about life cycle marketing. So the 3 mistakes again: not enough demand generation, not enough measurement, and not enough nurturing. There is also a degree of poor sales skills and process in there as well, which again is a subject of another conversation. If anybody would actually like a copy of these slides, that's fine. You can text the word slides to the telephone number that's on the screen now, and I will send you a copy of the slides. Also, there's a resource which is at salesexpert.biz. If you'd like to go to salesexpert.biz, there's it's an article site. There's plenty of articles which give you lead generation ideas, and also talk about lead nurturing, engagement, as well as sales and ways to automate the entire process. So that's all at salesexpert.biz.